Hey guys, in this video, we are going to look at how energy flows in living systems, and we're going to use what you know already about energy roles in an ecosystem and combine it with models to show how that energy gets transferred from one organism to the next. So, the flow of energy in a living system is in reference to how energy is transferred between living things. You already know from the law of conservation of energy that energy isn't created or destroyed, it just transfers. And that's true for both living and non-living things. With living things, we can show this energy flow with the use of models like food chains, food webs, and energy pyramids. Just for reference, we are not going over energy pyramids in this video. We're going to focus only on food chains and food webs. So food chains, which you've likely seen before, food chains, this is not one of them. Food chains show a series of events of how energy flows in an ecosystem. So this, starting from producer going all the way to the top and following the lines, would be a food chain. Food webs, though, show overlapping food chains and all of the possibilities of an energy transfer in an ecosystem. So, like I said, this is a food web, and you have lots of different overlapping food chains. So, that means you have different possibilities. For example, starting with our producer here, seaweed, the crab can get its energy from seaweed. Then squid can get its energy from the crab, but then at that point it splits off. It could go one direction or it can go another direction. In both food chains and webs, energy flows from producers to consumers to decomposers. So let's break that down. Producers are the ones that create the energy. They do this through the process of photosynthesis. Phytoplankton is a microorganism that is not a plant, but it does go through photosynthesis, so it's considered a producer. Another producer in this food web is seaweed, and you know that is a plant. Consumers get energy from the producer or the consumer that it eats, depending on which of the chains you're looking at here. And then decomposers get the energy from consumers that die, and not from energies that are wholly consumed, but consumers that die of natural causes or they're killed and their remains are left over. All food chains and webs begin with the producer if you haven't already noticed that. So in this aquatic food web, you have three producers here. Phytoplankton, submerged aquatic vegetation, which is just underwater plants, and then vegetation, which is above water plants that probably are growing on the side of this ecosystem. They're usually all at the bottom, but not all the time, but they always do start the energy flow in the ecosystem. The arrows in food webs and food chains show the direction that the energy is going. So it doesn't show who eats what, like this didn't eat this, but really it's kind of backwards. Really, it points to the predator, it points to the killer. So it got its energy from this organism, and this organism got its energy from this organism. The more arrows there are in a food web, the more realistic the food web is, and that's because it shows all of the possibilities of predator-prey relationships and all of the possibilities of energy transfer within the ecosystem. You can also think about it in your diet. You don't eat the same thing every single day. It varies. And so a food web of what you eat all day would be a lot of different overlapping food chains. So when we're talking about energy transfer, we would need to see, well, what's the energy used for? Because we know that it's going to transform into different things. Like for us, when we eat, we know we're receiving chemical energy and it transforms into mechanical energy and thermal energy. So most of the energy for any organism that it receives is used for life processes, like I just said, movement, and other things like that. Movement in many forms, not just moving your body, but your heart pumping blood and your lungs, your diaphragm moving up and down to help you breathe. In that process, so thermal energy is also produced, but it's lost as body heat during the organism's life. So you can see in every single instance, there's some amount of heat lost, and not really lost because it can't be destroyed, but it's given off to the environment. When an organism dies, its energy moves to decomposers, where most of the energy is released as heat as it breaks down the dead organism. In this pile of compost, that's how if you ever see steam rising from a pile of compost or pile of dirt, that is thermal energy being released by the decomposers. Some of the energy, some of the chemical energy it receives is returned to the soil for plants to use through the nitrogen cycle. But that's it. That's how energy flows through an ecosystem. And if you still have any questions, just come see me.